All right, traders, welcome back to the channel. We're talking about Tesla, and I want to go over some things that we talked about previously last week regarding some of the other EVs regarding Tesla and the overall growth of Tesla, and some big news that is coming in the next few days as well for the company. Let's get to it. So the first we're going to do, and I have to say, like, subscribe, it helps out the channel tremendously. We're going to look at what Cathie Wood said, and we talked about this a little bit over the past few weeks. Now, I do believe there's a place for GM and Ford, right? So I believe for the average everyday American citizen, Ford and GM are going to be the go-to vehicle most likely until Tesla can get some of those prices down, which they are actively trying to do, and they are kind of achieving that globally. But for the time being, Ford and GM are going to be pushing these vehicles out, and chances are, yes, they're going to be lower quality, things like that. This is going to be just a case of what's going to happen. But what Cathie Wood talks about, and I think she's a little bit dramatic on it because, one, she's very invested in Tesla and some of these other companies. But what she's talking about here, and the link will be down below, is discussing the overall difference between Tesla and GM and Ford. And so when we look at Tesla and how much it's ran up, when we look at, Lucid or some of these luxury EV vehicles with the self-driving and things like that, she goes into saying you have to look at these as a tech company. That's how you have to look at these, right? You have to look at them as a company of their own, not just a vehicle type company. And Tesla really is more than that, right? As you can see, where she comes out and really makes this point, because if we go to the chart and look very quickly, we're gonna look at just Ford we're gonna look at a longer dated time frame as well, so you can just get a better look, right? So this is Ford on the daily, as you can see, just going straight up parabolic, right? GM less parabolic, but really pushing up as well. And honestly, GM looks like it wants to run towards $70, $80. But as you can see, Ford's a better example of just how far this is going right now. And it's being pushed by this overall move to EV. And so what Cathie Wood really talks on here is this. Ford at its highest level in 20 years last week after it announced plans to double its production of EV vehicles, right? Now, she talks about this specifically. They soared on those electric vehicle announcements, and it's true, they did. If you look at the date and you look at overall the talks in December and things like that, think about that. That's ridiculous, she said. Adding that electrical vehicle sales represent only 2% of traditional automaker sales, while the rest are driven by gas-powered vehicles. And now, where she talks about this specifically, it gets interesting, because if they're moving so much based on just the EV news and growth, it's really based on overall hype. And why are we talking about that, and why do we think that, right? Because we looked at how long it took Tesla to really push those vehicles out in the last video yesterday to get to where it was, right? To become a top 15 auto sales in the nation, just for those two specific vehicles, right? We saw how long it took for them to grow, how the problems along the way. And we're going to talk about supply chain here in a second as well. But we can see that there's big factors that come into play here. And then she goes in to say they have problems because their gross margins, depending on the company, are somewhere between 10 to 20%. Well, they don't have a lot of room for error, whereas Tesla obviously they have more room for error, as we've gone over that as well. What if we're right and there's not a 20% increase in sales going into this year? Then they have to start cutting their prices. And if we're right on the used car market, which they're probably going to be facing credit issues, we'll talk about again here in a second, they're hugely leveraged to the credit that people take out on their autos, Wood said. And this leads us back to the overall economy, which we are discussing. And if you're, you're unbiased looking at the economy right now, as we look at yields going absolutely insane on the daily chart as well, since August 2020, you've had a massive run on yields going down from 0.5% all the way to 0.18% right now, trying to push even higher, looking like it's going to break out and really start making a big leg. Looking at the Nasdaq, wants to push down. And we know once these yields go higher that you're going to start seeing a drop in car sales, a drop in housing sales. Housing numbers come out this week. They come out very soon. Look at the dollar value, the dollar index since 2020. Look at the 2020 into 2020, it's been nonstop growth for the dollar, straight up. You had a double bottom roughly, but look at that overall movement. People are betting heavily on the dollar value right now as well, because of interest rates now being basically saying they're coming very, very soon. These are things you have to start looking at. And she has a great point here. Ford and GM make a lot of money on that used car market. It's a very good overall market for them. Tesla doesn't rely on that. That's not how Tesla operates. That's not how even Lucid's going to operate, or NIO, or some of these other only EV players, because they are adapting to a whole new different type of market specifically with what they're doing. And the problem with GM and Ford is that it's a whole new market. And now if it's hard to understand, we'll be doing a live most likely tomorrow, and I'll go over that for a more in-depth viewpoint and trying to explain and answer questions. But these are things you have to worry about. Now people are going to say, well, Tyler, I thought you were bullish on GM. I am. Short term, I am. But looking at this, Tesla has the advantage right now, right? And these EV specific companies. Now going over to here. Now we've gone over Tesla and how they are dominating and overcoming the supply chain issues, right? We've talked about that quite a bit. Now, in this right here, Elon Musk identifies and talks about it specifically. At Tesla's 2021 annual shareholder meeting, Musk bemoaned a year marked by supply chain problems, which we've already addressed, that he made it very difficult to obtain enough microchips and other specific parts. Even with that, they beat all expectations, which we continue to cover. Looking at GM, looking at Ford, they're having major issues. You can really look at the overall supply chain issues, and we can look at how the Fed is regarding those supply chain issues and regarding the overall car sales. It's affecting them. It's very much affecting them. And now on top of that, Tesla's bringing out their new models, and those are actually getting decent growth as well. But the real growth needs to be the Model Y and Model 3, because those are the ones that they've really pushed so much hard work into to get the growth going. Now, in my opinion, Musk showed the strength of the company. And that was the big part here, is showing the strength of the company and how they continue to surpass those supply chain issues. And now going into earnings, which in my opinion, they're going to smash once again. They're going to kill earnings on the 26th. They have big news coming out, and I believe they're going to address this. And this is the big news that I wanted to talk about, right? So right here, they're having the FSD beta coming to Canada 4 weeks away, says Musk. And he actually tweeted this back on January 16th, yesterday. So in my opinion, this is extremely big news, because we've already have it basically here in America, the self-driving, things like that. And that's another thing that Cathie has a point on, right? I don't agree with the complete bearish thesis that GM and Ford are going to go to the ground, but I do believe that Musk and Tesla have the advantage because they have the tech. They have the separating factor. And these are very big things in my opinion. And once this gets pushed out, once they start fixing the issues that are going to come with this, inevitably, there will be some downturns. There will be some issues going into the beta, 100%. This is what's going to keep the growth going. Keep the growth that's happening in America, moving to Canada and other nations around the world. So in my opinion, looking at Tesla, I still love it. And I don't want to spend any time really here on the charts. Keep the video very short, sweet to the point. We went over yesterday the buy zones. In my opinion, if it drops back down to anything under 1,000, basically 1,000 to 980, buy zone. Second buy zone, 910 down to 888. That's my second buy zone. I don't believe it drops below that. And right now, I believe the resistance you're looking at is 1150. And the most comparable thing to this, in my opinion, is scrolling back and looking over the past year and how you struggle to get over this 720 region. You broke below, and that's where it was. That's where I believe the resistance is. Once you broke above that and mounted it, you can see you broke above that last high with ease, just like I believe you will do here. Once you break above this, you'll break above 1250 with ease, and you'll get more of those price target raises, and Tesla will continue the overall run. All right, traders, that's going to wrap the video up. If you got anything out of this, please like, subscribe to us, help out the channel tremendously. More videos coming out on this, more videos specifically on EV, because I believe the sector is so hot right now, and there's a lot of news coming out specifically for these companies. I believe there's a few undervalued EV companies as well that had major run-ups in the previous year. We need to start talking about these, and we need to start addressing the key growth buys and what we should be buying on the dip with the coming economy. Again, like, subscribe, helps out the channel tremendously. The Discord link is down below. The Twitter is down below for all the content as well. Appreciate all love, and remember, we run the market.
Don't got enough to go cop it. I'm about to take off like a rocket. Houston, we might have a problem, but that don't mean money will solve them.